Captain One stood on the bridge of his warship, watching Earth through the main viewing screen. The blue planet looked peaceful from orbit, its cities glowing like scattered jewels against the dark continents. He had been protecting this world for 15 years, and today should have been just another routine patrol. But something felt wrong. The communication officer turned to him with worry in her eyes. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. Unknown vessels entering our space." One's hands gripped the armrest of his captain's chair. "How many?" "Counting now, sir. 2050. Over 200 ships. They're not responding to our hails." On the orbital research station Meridian, Doctor was studying samples from a recently discovered alien bacteria when the alarm started blaring. She rushed to the observation deck and saw something that made her blood turn cold. The sky was filling with alien warships, more than she could count. Their hulls were dark and covered in strange symbols she didn't recognize. Admiral Youngmi received the emergency broadcast at her command post near Neptune. Her outer defense fleet was too far away to reach Earth in time. She watched the tactical display as the alien armada moved into attack positions around humanity's home world. "Get every ship moving at maximum speed toward Earth," she ordered. "I don't care if you burn out the engines." But even as her ships accelerated, Youngmi knew they would arrive too late. Ambassador had been at the Galactic Council headquarters when the vote happened. The representatives from the Empire and the crystalline beings of the Lumen Collective had called for an emergency session. The topic was simple and terrifying: what to do about the human problem. Had argued passionately for Earth's rights. Humans had followed every rule, respected every boundary, and caused no harm to any council species. "We only want to explore and learn," he had said. "We seek friendship with all species." The ambassador clicked its mandibles in what might have been laughter. "Your species reproduces too quickly. You adapt too fast. You build weapons with frightening efficiency. In another 100 years you will be unstoppable. Better to contain this threat now." The vote was overwhelming. 73 species voted to neutralize humanity. Only 12 voted against it. The rest abstained. Tried to send a warning to Earth, but his communications were blocked. He was locked in his quarters as the Council fleet departed for the Sol system. He pounded on the door and screamed until his voice went raw, but nobody came. Back at Earth, one small fleet tried to fight. His ships launched missiles and fired energy weapons at the approaching armada. They managed to destroy 3 enemy vessels before the return fire began. The alien weapons were more powerful than anything humans had encountered before. One by one, his ships exploded or went dark, their crews lost to the cold of space. "All ships retreat to Earth orbit," one ordered. "Protect the evacuation transports." But there weren't enough transports. Earth had 15 billion people. Even if they had months to evacuate, they couldn't save everyone. And they didn't have months. They had hours. The alien fleet deployed massive platforms around the planet. These machines began gathering energy, their centers glowing brighter and brighter. Doctor watched from her station as the first platform fired. A beam of pure kinetic energy struck the Pacific Ocean, creating an explosion so massive it could be seen from space. The shockwave flattened everything for hundreds of kilometers. Then the other platforms fired. One beam hit Tokyo. Another struck New York. London, Mumbai, Lagos, Beijing, every major city on Earth was targeted simultaneously. The planet's surface turned into a nightmare of fire and destruction. One forced himself to watch as his home world burned. His wife had been in Seoul. His children were at their grandmother's house in. Both cities were gone now, erased in seconds. He wanted to scream, to cry, to die with his family. But he was a captain, and he still had people depending on him. "All civilian ships, load as many people as you can and jump to the coordinates I'm sending you," he broadcast on all channels. "Don't wait. Don't look back, just go." Thousands of small ships fled from Earth's surface. packed far beyond their safe capacity. Parents shoved their children onto departing vessels and stayed behind because there wasn't room. The lucky ones made it to orbit. The unlucky ones were caught in the bombardment. Doctor coordinated the evacuation from her station, using the Meridian's powerful computers to calculate the safest escape routes. She worked through tears, knowing that her entire family was on Earth's surface. Her parents, her sister, her nieces and nephews all gone. But she couldn't stop to grieve. Not yet. Not while there were still people to save. The bombardment continued for 72 hours. When it finally stopped, Earth was a dead world. The oceans boiled. The atmosphere was choked with ash and radiation. Nothing could survive down there anymore. 12 billion humans had died. Only 3 million escaped. Admiral Youngmi's fleet arrived just as the alien armada was leaving. She wanted to chase them, to fight them, to make them pay. But her tactical officer shook his head. "Admiral, we don't have the firepower. They'll destroy us." She knew he was right. Revenge would have to wait. The surviving humans gathered at a hidden asteroid base that had been used for mining operations. The refugees were traumatized, grieving, and terrified. Many wanted to surrender to the Galactic Council, to accept whatever mercy they might offer. Others wanted to fight, even if it meant dying. One sat in the command center, staring at a blank screen. He had saved 70,000 people with his own actions, but it felt meaningless compared to the billions who had died. What was the point of surviving if everything they loved was gone? Then a message appeared on his screen. It was encrypted with a code he didn't recognize. When he opened it, he found star coordinates pointing to a location deep in uncharted space. Below the coordinates were 2 words in English: human revenge. One stared at the message for a long time. He didn't know who sent it or why. It could be a trap. But what did they have to lose anymore? Earth was gone. Their civilization was destroyed. The galaxy thought humanity was finished. He stood up and walked to the main assembly hall where the refugees had gathered. Thousands of faces looked up at him, desperate for leadership, for hope, for any reason to keep living. "The council thought they could erase us," one said, his voice carrying through the silent hall. "They thought we would die quietly. They were wrong. We're going to survive. We're going to rebuild. And one day we're going to make them regret they ever heard the name humanity." Some people cheered, others cried, but everyone understood. The old humanity had died with Earth. What emerged from those ashes would be something new, something harder, something that the galaxy had never seen before. Admiral Youngmi received a copy of the mysterious coordinates. She looked at one and nodded. "Set course. Let's see what's waiting for us out there." The refugee fleet departed from the asteroid base, leaving behind the solar system that had been their home. Behind them, Earth continued to burn. Ahead of them was only darkness and the unknown, but somewhere in that darkness was a chance to survive, a chance to grow strong, and maybe, just maybe, a chance for revenge. The refugee fleet arrived at the coordinates 3 weeks later. What they found changed everything. The facility hung in space like a dead god's corpse. It was enormous, easily 10 times larger than Earth's biggest space station. Its surface was covered in metal that didn't match any known alloy, marked with symbols from a language nobody could read. The structure had been abandoned for thousands of years, maybe longer. Commander Yang led the first exploration team inside. He had lost his wife, both his children, and his parents when Earth burned. The grief had transformed him into something cold and focused. All he wanted now was the tools to hurt the species that had hurt humanity. The facility's interior was mostly dark, but some systems still had power. Ancient lights flickered on as the exploration teams moved through the corridors. They found laboratories filled with equipment, manufacturing bays with half-built machines, and data storage units containing information in a language they couldn't read yet. Engineer Sora was the one who figured out the basic interface. She was young, barely 25, and she had been working on experimental engine designs when Earth died. Her entire research team had been in Seoul. Now she poured all her pain into understanding this alien technology. "These designs are incredible," she told Admiral Youngmi during the first briefing. "Whoever built this place was working on weapons and ships far beyond anything the Galactic Council has. If we can figure out how to build even a fraction of this technology, we'll have a fighting chance." Youngmi walked through the facility herself, studying the ancient machines. The species that built this place was called the progenitors, according to the fragmentary translations they had managed. The progenitors had disappeared from the galaxy millions of years ago, leaving behind only ruins and mysteries. "Why did someone send us here?" Youngmi asked one during a private meeting. "Who knew about this place, and why give it to us?" One had no answers. The mysterious message sender had gone silent, but it didn't matter. They had found a gift and they would use it. The survivors made a decision. Rather than accepting the Galactic Council's offer to resettle on supervised reservation worlds, humanity would disappear. They would hide, rebuild, and prepare. The galaxy thought they were beaten, and that belief would be their advantage. They found a perfect hiding spot in a nebula 300 light-years from any inhabited system. The dense gases and radiation interfered with long-range sensors, making the area essentially invisible to passing ships. Inside this nebula, the refugees established a new base. They called it New Sanctuary. 3 million people wasn't many to rebuild a civilization, but humans had always been good at surviving against bad odds. They converted cargo ships into living spaces. They mined asteroids for resources. They grew food in hydroponic gardens built inside old freighter hulls. Life was hard, and every day was a struggle, but they were alive. Doctor set up a new research laboratory in New Sanctuary. She stopped studying alien bacteria and started studying alien biology for a different purpose. If humanity was going to fight back, they needed to understand their enemy's weaknesses. She worked day and night, dissecting tissue samples from dead soldiers, analyzing crystalline fragments from Lumen equipment. Colonel Bora trained the survivors in combat. She had been a Marine instructor before the war, teaching young recruits how to fight in zero gravity. Now she was teaching farmers and scientists and children how to kill. Every able-bodied human learned to use weapons, to pilot small craft, to survive in space suits. New Sanctuary wasn't just a refugee camp. It was becoming a military base. Engineer Sora made the first breakthrough 6 months after they arrived. She managed to decode enough of the progenitor data to understand their basic shield technology. The shields didn't block energy the way human shields did. Instead, they phased the ship slightly out of normal space-time. Weapons would pass through the ship as if it wasn't there. "If we can build these shields, enemy ships won't be able to touch us," Sora explained to the engineering team. "And if we can figure out their weapons systems, we can hit them when they can't hit back." Commander Yang focused on something different. He was breaking into the Galactic Council's communication networks, learning their military codes and protocols. It was slow work, but he was patient. He compiled lists of every Council military base, every fleet position, every supply route. Most importantly, he identified the officials who had voted to destroy Earth. "I have 73 names," he told Admiral Youngmi. 73 species leaders who decided we should die. They need to pay for that decision." Youngmi listened to the anger in his voice and understood it. She felt it too, but she also knew that blind revenge would get them all killed. "We'll make them pay," she promised. "But we'll do it smart. We'll hurt them in ways they never expected." Years passed. The survivors worked without rest, driven by grief and determination. Sora's team built the first prototype warship using progenitor technology. It was smaller than the old Earth destroyers, but faster and deadlier. They armed it with dark energy weapons that could tear through any known shielding. They installed the phase shields that made it almost impossible to hit. They named it Ghost 1. One took the ship on its first test flight. The controls were responsive, the weapons devastatingly accurate. When he activated the phase shields and watched enemy targeting systems lose their lock, he smiled for the first time since Earth burned. "Build more of these," he ordered. "Build as many as we can." The construction bays in New Sanctuary ran constantly. Humans worked in shifts around the clock, fabricating hull plates, assembling engines, installing weapon systems. They built ships designed for one purpose: war. Every vessel was painted black to blend into the darkness of space. Every crew was trained to strike hard and vanish before the enemy could respond. Doctor completed her research on biological weapons. She had developed viruses tailored to attack specific alien biologies. One strain would make soldiers hemorrhage from their respiratory systems. Another would cause lumen crystalline structures to fracture from within. She felt sick creating such weapons, but she remembered Earth burning and forced herself to continue. 5 years after the destruction of Earth, the Ghost Fleet was ready. They had 200 warships, all equipped with technology the galaxy had never seen. They had 3 million people united by shared trauma and determination. They had intelligence on every major council military installation. And they had a list of targets. Commander Yang brought news to Admiral Youngmi. The Empire is hosting a celebration on there, 5 years since they contained the human threat. Most of their military leadership will be attending. Youngmi studied the intelligence reports. The celebration would be the perfect opportunity. They would be relaxed, confident, unprepared. They thought humanity was finished, scattered across reservation worlds and broken in spirit. She called a meeting of all ship captains and military commanders. One stood at the front of the room, now wearing the uniform of a commodore. Colonel Bora was there with her Marines. Sora represented the engineering teams. Doctor brought her biological warfare division. Yang had his cyber warfare specialists ready. 5 years ago they tried to erase us, Youngmi said. They killed 12 billion of our people. They burned our home. They thought we would die quietly or accept their mercy. They were wrong. She activated the holographic display showing the home system. We're going to remind the galaxy that humanity exists. We're going to show them what happens when you try to destroy us. And we're going to do it in a way they'll never forget. The room was silent. Every person there had lost someone. Everyone carried scars that would never heal. But for the first time since Earth died, they felt something besides grief. They felt purpose. The Ghost Fleet launches in 1 week, Youngmi announced. Check your ships, brief your crews, and prepare for combat. We're not going as refugees anymore. We're going as hunters. One looked around the room at the faces of his fellow survivors. They had been teachers and doctors and engineers and parents. The council had tried to destroy them, but instead had forged them into something new, something dangerous. The week passed quickly. Supplies were loaded, weapons were tested, crews ran final drills. In the hidden construction bays of New Sanctuary, the Ghost Fleet prepared to emerge from the shadows. On the day of departure, the entire population of New Sanctuary gathered to watch the fleet leave. 3 million people who had lost everything stood together as the black warships powered up their engines. Parents held children who would never see Earth. Old people who had watched their world burn whispered prayers for revenge. Admiral Youngmi gave the order from her flagship. All ships, engage FTL drives, target coordinates, home system. It's time to introduce ourselves. The Ghost Fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving New Sanctuary behind. They were going back to the galaxy that had tried to erase them. But this time, they weren't coming as victims. They were coming as something the Galactic Council had never faced before, a species with nothing left to lose and everything to avenge. The Ghost Fleet emerged from FTL at the edge of space without warning. Their black hulls were nearly invisible against the darkness of space, and their progenitor phase shields made them almost undetectable to sensors. They had no idea death was coming. Lieutenant Wu led the first strike. He was 23 years old and had been a civilian pilot before Earth burned. His parents had died his sister in. Now he commanded a squadron of 50 experimental fighters that could phase in and out of normal space at will. Phantom Wing, this is Wu. We're going in. Remember your training. Hit fast, hit hard, and get out before they know what happened. The fighters accelerated toward the orbital defense platforms. These massive weapon stations protected the approaches to the, armed with enough firepower to stop any conventional fleet. But the Phantom Wing wasn't conventional. Wu activated his phase drive. Reality seemed to bend around his fighter as it slipped partially out of normal space. The targeting systems lost their lock. Warning alarms blared in the defense platforms, but the operators didn't understand what they were seeing. The fighters materialized inside the defensive perimeter, their weapons already firing. Dark energy torpedoes struck the platforms from point-blank range. Metal twisted and exploded. Atmosphere vented into space. The platforms tried to return fire, but the fighters phased out again, vanishing like ghosts. In 6 minutes, the Phantom Wing destroyed 12 orbital platforms and crippled 8 more. Not a single human fighter was hit. On the surface of the celebration was in full swing. Thousands of military officers and government officials had gathered in the capital city to commemorate their victory over humanity. They drank fermented liquids and made speeches about how they had saved the galaxy from a dangerous species. Then the sky started exploding. Commodore 1 brought the Ghost Fleet's main battle group in behind Wu's fighters. 200 warships appeared on sensors all at once. The defense fleet scrambled to respond, launching over 400 vessels to meet the threat. One watched the enemy ships approach on his tactical display. All ships, weapons free, show them what humans can do. The dark energy weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. They didn't fire beams or projectiles. They tore holes in space itself, creating cascading failures in matter and energy. When a dark energy bolt hit a warship, the vessel simply came apart at the molecular level. The fleet tried to fight back. They had superior numbers and centuries of military experience, but they had never faced an enemy like this. Human ships appeared and disappeared at will, striking from impossible angles. Their shields couldn't be penetrated. Their weapons couldn't miss. Specialists worked from the command ship's communication center, intercepting every transmission. She was 19 years old and had lost her entire family when Seoul burned. Now she used her gift for languages to listen to the enemy's panic. "They're calling for reinforcements from the outer colonies," she reported to Admiral Youngmi. "They don't understand our technology. One of their commanders is saying we must be using progenitor weapons." Youngmi allowed herself a cold smile. "Let them wonder. Commander Yang, are you ready?" Yang sat at his cyber warfare station, his fingers moving across holographic controls. "Deploying malware now, Admiral, targeting their automated defense systems." The virus he had designed was elegant and cruel. It infiltrated the military network through their own communication channels. Within minutes, it had spread to every automated defense system in the home system. Weapon platforms, missile batteries, orbital mines, all of them received new orders. The automated defenses turned on the fleet. Ships found themselves under fire from their own defensive systems. Confusion turned to panic. Ships tried to flee but ran into their own minefields. The commanders screamed orders that nobody could follow because the communication network was corrupted. The battle lasted 7 hours. When it ended, 60% of the home defense fleet was destroyed. The Ghost Fleet lost only 16 ships, and most of those crews were rescued before the vessels were completely lost. But the physical battle was only part of the plan. While the fighting raged in orbit, A was broadcasting everything across the galactic network. Every species with faster-than-light communication received footage of the battle. The galaxy watched as humanity, thought to be extinct or broken, destroyed the military with casual efficiency. The message was simple and terrifying. Humanity was back, and they were not asking for forgiveness. On the third day after the battle, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of species, all talking at once. Fear was thick in the air. The Lumen Collective's representative was a being of living crystal that pulsed with agitated light. "This is impossible. We destroyed we scattered their survivors. How do they have this technology?" The ambassador, who had barely escaped the attack on clicked his mandibles in distress. "We must mobilize the full might of the council. They attacked us without provocation. They must be eliminated completely this time." Other species weren't so sure. A representative from a small mammalian species stood up. "Without provocation, we destroyed their planet and killed 12 billion of them. What did we expect them to do?" Arguments broke out across the chamber. Some species wanted total war against humanity. Others questioned whether the original attack on Earth had been justified. A few quietly began planning to withdraw from the council entirely. The council leadership made their decision. They would assemble a combined fleet of 2,000 warships, drawn from every major military power. This force would hunt down the human survivors and finish what they started 5 years ago. But they were too slow. The Ghost Fleet was already moving to their next targets. Doctor's biological weapons team had been busy during the 5 years of preparation. They had developed a virus specifically designed to attack the Lumen Collective's crystalline biology. The virus was released simultaneously on 3 Lumen colony worlds. It was invisible, odorless, and spread through any physical contact. Within hours of exposure, infected Lumen began to fracture. Their crystalline bodies developed microscopic cracks that spread, and the pain was excruciating. The death toll was catastrophic. Doctor watched the reports from her laboratory and felt sick. She had created this weapon. She had released it on civilian populations. But every time her conscience troubled her, she remembered watching Earth burn. She remembered 12 billion dead humans. She forced herself to keep working. The Lumen Collective pulled half their military forces back to their home territories to deal with the crisis. They were desperate to find a cure for the virus, but Doctor had designed it too well. Every time they thought they understood it, the virus mutated slightly. With the Lumen forces distracted, the Ghost Fleet hit supply convoys across Council space. Yang's Cyber Warfare Division had identified every major logistics route. Human ships appeared without warning, destroyed supply transports, and vanished before help could arrive. The Council's military machine began to starve. Ammunition ran low. Fuel supplies dwindled. Spare parts became impossible to find. The 2,000-ship fleet they were assembling couldn't launch because they didn't have the resources to keep it running. Wu's Phantom Wing evolved their tactics. They started hitting military recruitment centers and training facilities. Young soldiers who had signed up to defend their empire found themselves under attack before they even finished basic training. The message was clear. There was no safe place, no protected zone. Humanity could strike anywhere, anytime. General Sang-hoon coordinated the overall strategy from New Sanctuary. He was an old man now, over 70, and he had lost his children and when Earth died. But his mind was still sharp, and his understanding of warfare was unmatched. He divided the Ghost Fleet into 3 battle groups, each operating independently. One group hunted military targets. One group disrupted supply lines. The third group struck at economic infrastructure, factories, mining operations, trade hubs. The goal wasn't just to win battles. It was to destroy the Council's ability to wage war. After 2 months of constant attacks, the Galactic Council was in chaos. 23 species requested peace negotiations with humanity. 12 species from the Council entirely, declaring neutrality. 5 species that had opposed the original attack on Earth began providing secret intelligence to the Ghost Fleet. The Empire and Lumen Collective tried to maintain their alliance, but trust was breaking down. They blamed the Lumen for not providing enough military support. The Lumen blamed them for starting the war with humanity in the first place. Admiral Youngme received diplomatic messages daily. Some species begged for mercy. Others offered tribute. A few tried to negotiate alliances against the Lumen leadership. She brought the messages to her command staff. "What do you think? Should we accept negotiations?" One shook his head. "Not yet. They're not scared enough. They still think they can recover from this." Colonel Bora agreed. "We need to hit them harder. Show them that we can reach there anytime we want." Yang's voice was cold. "I have a list of 73 officials who voted to destroy Earth. So far, we've only dealt with 2 of those species. There are 71 more who need to understand what they've done." Youngme made her decision. "We continue the offensive, but we're selective about targets. Military infrastructure, political leadership, economic systems. We don't target civilians unless necessary." Doctor looked relieved. "Thank you, Admiral. I was worried we were becoming the monsters they feared." "Maybe we are," Youngme replied quietly, "but we're monsters they created." The Ghost Fleet prepared for their next major operation. Intelligence indicated that the Galactic Council leadership was gathering at a secret location called Nexus Prime. It was a massive orbital station, supposedly the most heavily defended location in known space. One studied the tactical data. "If we destroy Nexus Prime, we cut the head off the Council. Without their leadership, the Alliance will collapse completely." "Can we do it?" Youngme asked. One smiled grimly. "We're humanity, Admiral. We've already done the impossible. What's one more miracle?" Nexus Prime was the beating heart of the Galactic Council. The massive orbital station hung in space like an artificial moon, home to 50,000 officials, administrators, and military commanders from hundreds of species. Its shields were supposedly impenetrable. Its defenses could destroy entire fleets. It had never been successfully attacked in its 3,000 years of existence. Captain Min studied the station's blueprints with cold focus. She was 30 years old and had been a security consultant before Earth burned. Her husband and baby daughter had died in. Now, she led the Ghost Fleet's infiltration division, and she had found a way inside. "The station requires constant resupply," she explained to Admiral Youngme during the mission briefing. "Food, water, fuel, spare parts. Thousands of cargo ships dock there every day. We forge the right credentials, we can walk right through their front door." The plan was risky. Min would lead a team of 20 operatives disguised as cargo handlers. They would plant explosives and cyber warfare nodes throughout the station. Meanwhile, 3 battle groups of the Ghost Fleet would position themselves for a coordinated strike. Commander Bin had a different role to play. She had been a journalist before the war, skilled at crafting narratives and manipulating public opinion. Now she ran humanity's propaganda division, and she had prepared something special for the Council. "I've compiled evidence from Yang's intelligence gathering," Bin explained. "Communication logs, meeting records, internal memos. They show that the Council leadership knew Earth posed no real threat. They attacked us because they were afraid of competition, not because we were dangerous. I can broadcast this across the entire galactic network." Youngme nodded slowly. "Do it. Let every species see what their leaders really are." While Bin prepared her broadcast and Mint's team infiltrated Nexus Prime, Doctor was putting the finishing touches on humanity's most devastating weapon yet. He was a physicist who had been working on theoretical engines when Earth died. His wife and 3 sons had been in. Their deaths had driven him into the darkest corners of progenitor technology. The singularity generators are ready, he told Commodore 1. They'll create temporary black holes that consume everything within a 5-kilometer radius. After 30 seconds, the singularities collapse and disappear. Nothing remains. One looked at the small devices. Each was no bigger than a suitcase, but contained enough destructive power to erase a city. How many have you built? 10. Use them carefully. The calculations are precise, but if something goes wrong, the singularity might not collapse. It could keep growing. Mint's infiltration team departed 3 weeks before the main assault. They traveled on a captured Council cargo ship, their false identities prepared by Yang's experts. The team included demolition specialists, hackers, and combat experts. Every member had volunteered, knowing they might not survive. They arrived at Nexus Prime and submitted their credentials for inspection. Mint's heart pounded as Council security systems scanned their ship. If the forgeries failed, they would be captured or killed instantly. But Yang's work was perfect. The security systems cleared them for docking. Remember, Min whispered to her team as they unloaded cargo containers. Act normal. We're just tired workers doing a routine job. Don't draw attention. For 2 weeks, they worked on Nexus Prime. During the day, they unloaded cargo and blended in with the thousands of other workers. At night, they planted explosives in critical systems, power junctions, life support nodes, communication hubs. They installed cyber warfare equipment that would activate on command. They mapped security protocols and escape routes. One of her team members, a young man named, was nearly caught when a guard noticed him in a restricted area. "I'm lost," said with a nervous smile, "looking for the bathroom." The guard looked suspicious but let him go with directions. Hands were shaking as he walked away. That night, Min decided they had pushed their luck far enough. "We've done what we came for. Tomorrow we leave." While Mint's team escaped on a departing cargo ship, Commander Bin released her propaganda broadcast. The evidence was damning. Council leadership discussing how to manage the human problem before Earth had done anything aggressive. Officials laughing about making an example of humanity. Lumen representatives calculating the economic benefits of eliminating a competitor species. The broadcast spread across the galaxy within hours. Species that had supported the Council began to question their allegiance. Public protests erupted on dozens of worlds. The Empire and Lumen Collective tried to claim the evidence was fabricated, but the technical analysis proved it was genuine. 3 species formally, their military forces from the Council fleet. 5 more announced they would no longer follow Council military commands. The alliance that had destroyed Earth was fracturing. Admiral Youngmi chose the moment for the main assault carefully. The Council leadership was gathering at Nexus Prime for an emergency session to discuss the collapsing alliance. Every major political and military leader would be in one place. "All battle groups move to your positions," she ordered from her flagship. "This is what we've been working toward. Today, we show them the price of genocide." One led Battle Group 1 against the station's defensive fleet. They emerged from FTL dangerously close, catching the defenders by surprise. The Ghost Fleet's dark energy weapons tore through Council ships before they could properly respond. Lieutenant Wu's Phantom Wing phased through the defensive perimeter and began hitting the station's shield generators. Each strike was precise, targeting weak points Mint's team had identified. One by one, sections of the shield went offline. Battle Group 2, commanded by Colonel Bora, deployed Doctor Singularity weapons against 3 Council military staging areas in nearby systems. The small devices activated simultaneously, creating black holes that consumed entire fleets and supply depots. Thousands of warships simply ceased to exist, pulled into gravitational forces that crushed them to nothing. The Council fleet tried to regroup, but Commander Yang's Cyber Warfare Division struck next. The malware Mint's team had planted activated, spreading through Nexus Prime's computer systems like wildfire. Life support failed in some sections. Communications went dark. Automated defenses turned inward, firing on the station itself. Inside Nexus Prime, panic spread. Council officials tried to evacuate, but the docking bays were damaged and most ships couldn't launch. Security forces ran through corridors, trying to maintain order as explosions rocked the station. The battle in space raged for 18 hours. It was brutal and costly. The Council fleet fought desperately, knowing they were protecting their leadership. They threw ships at the Ghost Fleet without regard for casualties. Wu's Phantom Wing paid a heavy price. During a suicide run against an enemy flagship, half his squadron was destroyed by point defense fire. He watched friends die in explosions of light and debris, but they completed their mission. The enemy flagship lost power and began drifting. One's battle group took severe damage. Several human ships were crippled or destroyed. Each loss hurt because they didn't have the population to replace crews easily. But they kept fighting, kept pushing forward, driven by memories of Earth burning. After 18 hours, the Council fleet broke. The surviving ships retreated, abandoning Nexus Prime to its fate. Admiral Youngmi watched them flee and felt no satisfaction. Victory was just pain with a different name. "Captain Min, activate the charges," she ordered. From her escaped cargo ship, Min sent the final command. The explosives her team had planted detonated in a carefully timed sequence. Power systems overloaded. Structural supports failed. The station's fusion reactors went critical. Nexus Prime tore itself apart from within. Sections broke away and exploded. Atmosphere vented into space. The station that had coordinated the genocide of Earth died the same way Earth had died, in fire and chaos. Thousands of Council officials and military commanders perished. Species that had voted to destroy humanity lost their leadership in a single catastrophic failure. The Galactic Council, as it had existed for thousands of years, effectively ceased to exist. Youngmi broadcast a message on all channels, ensuring every species in the galaxy would hear it. Her voice was calm, but carried the weight of 12 billion dead. "The Galactic Council destroyed our world and murdered our people. They did this not because we threatened them, but because they feared what we might become. Today, they learned what we became because of their actions. We offer peace to any species that desires it, but to those who supported our genocide, we offer only this. We remember every name, every vote, every species that condemned us, and we are patient." The message ended there, but the implication was clear. Humanity wasn't finished. This wasn't revenge. This was just the beginning. In the aftermath, the galaxy was forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. The species they had tried to eliminate had returned stronger, more advanced, and utterly ruthless. The Empire was crippled. The Lumen Collective was facing extinction from Doctor's virus. The Council's military power was shattered. Species across the galaxy began receiving offers from humanity. Simple terms: acknowledge Earth's genocide as a crime, provide reparations, and accept humanity's right to exist freely. In return, the Ghost Fleet would stop attacking. 23 species accepted immediately. More followed every day. But the Enlumen leadership refused. They declared they would fight humanity to the last soldier. Admiral Youngmi gathered her commanders to discuss the next phase. "They've chosen extinction over apology. What do we do?" Doctor spoke quietly. "If we exterminate them completely, we become exactly what they feared. We prove their paranoia was justified." Colonel Bora disagreed. "They burned Earth. They killed 12 billion people. They don't deserve mercy." The debate would continue, but one thing was certain. The galaxy had changed forever. Humanity had proven they couldn't be destroyed, couldn't be contained, couldn't be ignored. The survivors of Earth had become the most dangerous species in known space, and everyone knew it. They hung before the Ghost Fleet like a jewel waiting to be crushed. Admiral Youngmi stood on her flagship's bridge, watching the planet that had orchestrated Earth's destruction. One command from her and that world would burn just as Earth had burned. The weapons were ready. The targeting solutions were locked. Revenge was within reach. "Admiral," Commander Yang said quietly, "all ships report ready to commence bombardment. We can finish this." Youngmi said nothing for a long moment. Behind her, the bridge crew waited in tense silence. They all wanted this. They all deserved this. 12 billion dead demanded justice. But Doctor's words echoed in her mind. If we exterminate them completely, we become exactly what they feared. "Stand down weapons," Youngmi ordered. "We're not firing." Yang turned to her in shock. "Admiral, they killed our families. They destroyed our world." "I know," Youngmi replied. "I lost my husband and my daughter when Seoul burned. I remember. But we're not going to become monsters to fight monsters." She opened a communication channel to the planet below. The leadership had no choice but to listen. Every weapon in orbit was aimed at their world. One wrong move and they would all die. "This is Admiral Youngmi of the United Earth Fleet," she broadcast. "5 years ago, you destroyed our without warning or mercy. You killed 12 billion humans, including my family. You did this because you feared what we might become. Look at what you created instead." She paused, letting the silence carry weight. "I could end your species right now. I have the weapons, I have the right, but I won't. Because we're better than you. We'll show the galaxy what you couldn't understand, that strength doesn't require cruelty. That power doesn't require genocide." On the planet's surface, billions watched the human fleet hovering in their sky. They waited for death that never came. The moment stretched into hours. The fleet remained in position, weapons ready but not firing. Finally, the leadership sent a message. It was a simple statement: "What are your terms?" Youngmi had prepared for this. "The Empire will face trial for genocide. Your military will be reduced to defensive forces only. You will pay reparations to humanity for the next 100 years. Most importantly, you will acknowledge what you did. Every child will learn that you destroyed Earth not from necessity, but from fear and pride." The terms were harsh but not impossible. The alternative was extinction. They had no leverage to negotiate. They accepted. Engineer Sora had reverse-engineered the complete progenitor database during the 5 years in hiding. The knowledge contained there would give humanity a massive technological advantage for centuries. Weapons, shields, engines, medical technology, humanity now possessed information that made them the most advanced species in known space. "We could rule the galaxy if we wanted to," Sora said during a strategy meeting. "Nobody could stop us now." Admiral Youngmi shook her head. "We didn't survive to become the next tyrants. We survived to make sure nothing like this happens again." The Lumen Collective was a more complicated problem. Doctor's virus had spread throughout their population, killing millions and causing others to live in constant pain as their crystalline bodies slowly fractured. They were dying as a species and had the cure. She had always had the cure. She had designed the virus with a way to stop it. She had told nobody, not even Admiral Youngmi. Some part of her had always hoped they wouldn't need to use it. "I can stop the virus," she announced at the next command meeting. "I can save them." Commander Yang's face hardened. "They voted to kill us. Let them die." "No," Doctor said firmly. "I created this weapon. It's my responsibility. If we let an entire species die when we can save them, we're no better than the council that destroyed Earth." The debate that followed was heated. Some supported mercy. Others demanded justice through death. The survivors were split, their trauma pulling them in different directions. Admiral Youngmi made the final decision. "We save them, but they will know they owe their existence to human mercy. They will spend the rest of their civilization remembering that we could have let them die and chose not to." The cure was distributed to Lumen worlds. The dying stopped. The pain ended. The Lumen Collective understood they had been granted a gift they didn't deserve. Their representative sent a message to humanity, 3 words that changed everything. We were wrong. Over the following months, the galaxy restructured itself. The old Galactic Council was dissolved. In its place, a new galactic assembly formed with different rules. No species could be preemptively attacked. No civilization could be contained without proving actual harm. Most importantly, humanity held a permanent seat with veto power. Captain 1, promoted to Admiral, oversaw the Ghost Fleet's transformation into a peacekeeping force. The ships designed for revenge would now protect the innocent. It felt strange, but also right. Lieutenant Wu, who had lost half his squadron in the final battle, became an ambassador. He traveled to different worlds, teaching species about humanity's journey from peace-loving explorers to desperate warriors. "We never wanted this," he told alien audiences. "We wanted friends and discovery. You made us into something else." Commander Yang struggled with the peace more than others. He had wanted complete revenge, total destruction of every species that voted against Earth. The measured response felt like betrayal. Eventually, he left the main human settlements and established an isolated colony on a distant world. "I can't forgive," he told Youngmi before he left. "Maybe Mai will be able to, but not me." She understood. Some wounds went too deep for healing. Doctor returned to medical research, using progenitor technology to develop treatments for diseases across multiple species. She saved lives instead of ending them. Sometimes, late at night, she still saw Earth burning in her dreams, but during the day she could look at herself in the mirror again. The survivors established anew. They called it Second Earth, but it would never replace what was lost. On the main continent, they built a memorial, a black wall inscribed with 12 billion names. It took years to carve them all. Every human who died when Earth burned was remembered there. Above the wall, in every human language, were carved the words, "We remember, we endured, we will never again be victims." The new capital city grew around the memorial. Children who had been born in space or on Second Earth played in the parks nearby. They learned the stories of old Earth, but they also learned about the future their parents had secured through sacrifice and determination. 5 years after the peace, the Galactic Assembly held its first major gathering on Second Earth. Species from across the galaxy attended, walking through the memorial and reading the names. Many wept. Some apologized. Others simply stood in silent acknowledgement of what had been done. Ambassador Wu gave a speech during the ceremony. "This memorial reminds us of what hatred and fear can accomplish. 12 billion lives gone in 72 hours. We built this not for revenge but for memory, so that no species ever forgets the cost of genocide." The galaxy had learned a harsh lesson. Humanity proved that destroying a species doesn't end a problem. It creates something far more dangerous. The survivors of Earth had become stronger, more advanced, and more determined than anyone imagined possible. But humanity had also learned something. Admiral Youngmi understood it when she stood at the memorial, looking at her daughter's name carved in stone. Revenge could destroy empires and shatter alliances, but revenge couldn't bring back the dead. It couldn't heal the wound in her heart. It could only ensure that others understood the cost of their actions. "We won," Commodore once said, standing beside her at the memorial. "Why doesn't it feel better?" "Because winning and healing are different things," Youngmi replied. "We survived. We made them pay. But we can't ever go back to who we were before Earth burned." The Ghost Fleet remained in secret, maintained and ready in hidden facilities throughout human space. The singularity weapons were locked away but not destroyed. The biological warfare research was classified but preserved. Humanity had learned another lesson. Peace was good, but strength kept the peace. Years passed. The trauma began to fade, slowly replaced by new memories and new generations. Second Earth flourished. Human colonies spread across dozens of systems, always welcomed now instead of feared. But humanity never forgot. Every child learned the history of old Earth. Every adult visited the memorial at least once. The lesson was carved deep into human culture. Never again would they be victims. Never again would they be unprepared. Never again would they trust that peaceful intentions were enough. One evening, as Admiral Youngme prepared to retire after decades of service, she stood once more before the memorial. She was old now, her hair white, her hands showing the wear of years. She touched her daughter's name on the wall as she had done thousands of times before. A young woman approached, wearing the uniform of the Galactic Assembly. "Admiral Youngme, I wanted to thank you. My species was one of the ones you spared. We voted to destroy Earth, but you showed us mercy anyway." Youngme studied the young alien. "Why are you thanking me?" "Because you taught us that strength and mercy can coexist, that justice doesn't require extinction. My people were wrong and you had every right to destroy us, but you didn't. That made us better." After the young woman left, Youngme allowed herself a small smile. Maybe the lesson had been worth the cost after all. As night fell over Second Earth, the memorial was illuminated by soft lights. 12 billion names glowed in the darkness, a reminder of the past and a warning for the future. The galaxy had tried to erase humanity and learned the price of that mistake. And far away, in the shadows between stars, the mysterious figure who had sent humanity the coordinates to the progenitor facility watched Second Earth through a sensor array. The figure had guided humanity through their darkest hour, giving them the tools they needed to survive. "Phase 1 complete," the figure whispered in a language no living species knew. "Humanity has been tempered by fire. They are ready for what comes next." The figure input new coordinates into an encrypted message, instructions for the next stage of whatever ancient plan was unfolding. The message was cued to send, but not yet. Humanity needed time to heal, to grow stronger, to prepare for challenges they didn't yet know existed. The figure watched Second Earth's lights twinkle against the darkness and wondered if humanity would forgive the manipulation when they eventually learned the truth. Probably not, but forgiveness wasn't necessary. Only survival mattered. And humanity, forged in genocide and tempered by revenge, had proven they were survivors above all else. The stars turned slowly overhead, and Second Earth slept peacefully, its people unaware of the greater destiny that had been chosen for them long ago. They knew only that they had survived the worst the galaxy could throw at them. Whatever came next, humanity would face it the same way they had faced everything since Earth burned. Together, determined and absolutely unwilling to be destroyed.